This is an introduction to LBA Observing using the Parkes radio telescope. All observing is run from the Joffrey column 1 VNC session using the normal ATNF VNC password that you can obtain from the password request script on Venice. The LBA controls are fairly simple for Parkes. There's a simple program called AT-Snap which points the antenna. Once observing, this is very robust and just does its own thing. You just need to check very occasionally that it is still running, hasn't accidentally been quit, and that the pending times are in the near future and there are no problems. You can track what the antenna is doing using the ShowTel program. It tells you the antenna status as well as where it is pointing and various parameters about the observing. If you need to stow the antenna, you can also use the AT-Snap program. If a schedule has finished, AT-Snap will quit, and you can just type in that next term, AT-Snap space stow. Or if, for instance, for a weather-related reason, you want to stop a schedule and stow it early, you would Control-C AT-Snap, and then just type AT-Snap space stow. You can check that that is working using AT-Snap, using ShowTel, or the Frog web-based monitor. Parkes IF data is controlled through the normal LBA DAS. There's two of them. Through normal observing, you just need to check that the power levels are roughly mid-band, and only if the IF levels are right at an extreme value, you need to do something about it. In which case, you need to adjust the attenuation using the LO GUI. If it is not running, you can start LO GUI using the Observing Tools menu, LO GUI. Generally, you'll find it is running in one of the virtual desktops already. Before you do anything with LO GUI, you should always click the refresh button to make sure all these values are up to date, as multiple versions of LO GUI can be running at the same time. Typically, to adjust attenuation, you would use the C40 attenuator, and normally the first two values correspond to the first DAS, and the second two values to the second DAS. The first value, the left-hand IFP1, the second value, the right-hand IFP2, and so on. But very occasionally, the polarizations can be swapped, and you'll find the first column actually corresponds to the IFP2 on the first DAS. To change the value is very simple. You click with the mouse on the value, then choose a different attenuator value, depending whether you want to increase or decrease attenuation, depending on whether there's too much or too little power. You should see that the DAS responds immediately. If it doesn't, check that you haven't actually changed the power level on one of the different DAS IFPs, in which case there is a swap somewhere in the system. The VLBI recording is done using the usual CDisco GUI. There is a separate screencast on using CDisco. This particular experiment, we're actually using two CDiscos simultaneously for the 264 MHz modes. Normally, would only be running a single CDisco. During the experiment, other than monitoring this on the Recmon webpage, just periodically check that CDisco is still running, still recording, it hasn't frozen, the sample stats look sensible, and that the last file is a time roughly no more than roughly a minute or so ago. That's the current UT time. Also just check that there's still plenty of time left on the disk, and if not, make sure sometime in the future you change to a different disk. You can also keep an eye on the wind using monitor controls. Normally the automatic wind stow for Parkes is very good. If you notice that a very strong gale is coming, you may want to proactively stow the antenna. It is also worth checking that the TSYS values being recorded in Monica are sensible. In this case, you can see an hour ago the they actually were wrong because the TCS monitoring hadn't actually been set up. And other than that, there's really no other things you need to do monitoring of parks, other than watching the RecMon and LBA monitor pages to check that everything is running